Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Alright, hope everybody is doing fantastic. Apologies for lack of videos over the weekend. Now, 3 days ago, I did a poll for you guys here on YouTube, which was to ask you to be specific, if you like. What is the one thing that doesn't sit well with you? What's the one thing that disappoints you about Deontay Wilder's reaction to losing to Tyson Fury? The excuses. And right away, it's unfortunate that I actually needed more than 5 options. That's terrible, isn't it? That's terrible. Usually when a fighter loses, if they come out with an excuse, we can talk about that one specific excuse. But Wilder's got a whole shopping list of them. And I can only choose 5 options. And I know that had I have put all of them as the option, that would have won by 90%. But I needed to be a little bit more specific. What was the one that didn't sit well with you? And going by the comments on this poll as well, of course, most people go all of the above. Okay, which as I said, I need you guys and girls to be a little bit more specific. And some people said twerking. I mean, twerking's pretty bad, right? But twerking's not really an excuse. Or maybe it was, I don't know. But the winner by quite some distance is throwing Mark Breland under the bus. And I agree with that one, to be fair. I said, we can look at all the other ones, accusing Tyson Fury of cheating, criminal activity. That's a horrible, terrible, low-life thing to accuse somebody of, especially when 9-10 months in, you haven't been able to prove what it is that he's saying. For him, it's just a theory, isn't it? It's just a conspiracy theory. And even if he could prove something now, well, why is it taking you so long? Why is that? Why is it that you want to get into the ring with somebody who you believe is a cheat? Why would you want to do that? It's ridiculous, isn't it? But Mark Breland's been thrown under the bus. Now, Mark Breland, he's been with Deontay Wilder for over 10 years, is it? Something like that. So he's been with him for a long time. So these guys would have built up a trust. And for Mark Breland to throw in the towel when probably 99% of the boxing public who watched that fight believe Mark Breland done the right thing, you fire Mark Breland and then accuse the man of spiking your water. A guy who you know, a guy who you trust, a guy who represented and was proud to represent his country, the United States of America, in the Olympic Games as an amateur. He was an outstanding amateur, by the way. A guy who done very, very well as a professional. A guy who's been in Deontay Wilder's corner for a long, long time. You would accuse him of doing that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, thankfully, most people don't believe Mark Breland did anything wrong. But there could be some people, it could have went the opposite way, where people will look at Mark Breland and go, I ain't going to hire you. I don't trust you. What happens if one day you decide you don't want me to win this particular fight and you're just going to throw in the towel? Maybe you're going to spike my water. And I think that's probably the thing that most people can't get their head around. Let's also broaden it a little bit more. Wilder had 2 trainers, Mark Breland and JD's. JD's is his trainer and manager. So JD's, he's getting quite a big cut of Deontay Wilder's purses. I don't know whether or not he's going to get the standard 25% as a manager plus a 10% as a trainer. If he's getting 35%, then obviously Shelley Finkel, he's going to get like a big old chunk. Plus Mark Breland was getting some money. Plus Al Heyman's getting some money. It does make you wonder how much money Wilder is getting left, doesn't it? But I'm pretty sure that JD doesn't get as high as that. Who knows though, right? Now, with JD's, he was the one that was in the changing room with Tyson Fury. He was the one that was overseeing the hands being wrapped, the gloves put on, the gloves being taped up. He was the one who was there. He was the one who, if something had happened, he was the one who was charged with spotting it. After the fight as well, he could have got hold of the gloves. You're allowed to inspect the gloves yourself. But JD's, he's still got a job. Mark Breland hasn't. JD's, who somewhat threw Mark Breland under the bus himself, along with Shelley Finkel in a post-fight press conference, where he said that Well, Wilder, he said to all of us that if anything was to happen, make sure you don't throw in the towel, no matter what. Well, that's the wrong kind of attitude. You need somebody in the corner who is going to make sure that you see another day. Is going to make sure that Deontay Wilder can see his family that evening, can spend time with them for the next however long. That's what a trainer's supposed to do. Of course, he's supposed to help you in the fight. He's supposed to advise you and this, that, and the other as well. And the last thing in the world that any trainer wants to do is throw in that towel. Wilder, of course, he wants to link Mark Breland with Sugar Hill Stewart, who, of course, was training Tyson Fury. There's a Kronk connection between them. But not really, because Mark Breland had the Kronk connection with Manny Stewart, not Sugar Hill. But listen, it is what it is. Nobody, or at least I don't think so, nobody really has a problem with Wilder getting rid of his trainer. Whether it was JD's, whether it was Mark Breland. At the end of the day, boxers change trainers. It's what they do. It's their prerogative. At the end of the day, if you're not entirely happy or comfortable with whoever's training you, then you change it. That's what you do. What you don't do is just keep on going through the motions, camp after camp after camp, with somebody that you're not confident with. So people not really having a go at Wilder for getting rid of him is the reason why they got rid of him. Were there problems before? Was Wilder thinking about getting rid of him before? Maybe this was just the excuse he needed. Why was Mark Breland there? We heard that Mark Breland was there because he was pretty much forced onto Deontay Wilder by Shelley Finkel. These are some of the rumours, and that's all we can put it down to as to why Mark Breland was there. Wilder, who never really listened to Mark Breland in the corner. We've seen Mark Breland, he has got quite snappy with the fact that Wilder just doesn't listen. A lot of people saw with the Luis Ortiz first fight that Mark Breland, he walked out, apparently, because Wilder just wasn't listening. So, in my opinion, there's a little bit more to it. But to throw him under the bus and try and trash his credibility it's a low-life thing to do. All of the other excuses, they're all pathetic. All of the other excuses, you can look at and go, man, that's bad. And if it's just one of them, you can just overlook it and go, okay, that's his excuse. Let's ridicule it, let's break it down, then we'll move on. But because there's so many things, it keeps people like me busy, doesn't it? It keeps you guys talking. And it's actually hurt Deontay Wilder's credibility. Let's be honest, it really has. As if it wasn't embarrassing enough, the fact that he got pinged around, the shopping list of excuses just makes it 10 times worse than what it really needs to be. And some of his degenerate fan base as well, they co-sign this as well. But do they really co-sign it? I'm not too sure if they do. I understand as a YouTube uploader, you do build relationships with certain fighters. And the last thing in the world that you want to do is turn around and go in on a fighter that you have a good relationship with. That's the last thing in the world you want to do. But you do have to be honest. You do have to say, I don't agree with this whole Mark Breland thing. And I'm pretty sure if you asked all of the Deontay Wilder fanatical channels, what's the most disappointing thing for them, they'd probably say all of the above, but they'd probably say Mark Breland as well. Because Mark Breland, the only guy who actually cared for Deontay Wilder, he's the one who lost his job. Where Wilder, he's all into this black power and everything. Well, the one guy on his team, Mark Breland, he's the one who gets rid of. JD's gets to keep his job. And he's the one, if Wilder truly does believe in the whole glove gate and all this, that and the other, but why has JD still got a job then? If you truly believe that JD's missed all of this, then why has he still got a job? Maybe JD's had some kind of control over Wilder, I don't know. Much like Shelley Finkel. We know that Wilder, he got talked out of taking out over $100 million to take on Anthony Joshua for Undisputed. He got talked out of that. I don't know about you guys and girls, but somebody offers me $100 million when my highest payday was about 10, 15 million, even if it was like 20 million. Somebody offers me that, even if I'm not confident of winning, I'm probably going to take it. $100 million. I'll go in there. I'll quite happily get spanked around for 2 fights. Give me that 100 million, see you later. Especially when there's a good chance that he could land that punch and become undisputed champion as well. He got talked out of that. Because, in my opinion, they were looking at a bigger picture of, well, let's get Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, he's a very credible name. He ain't ready. He's been out of the ring for X amount of time. He put on so much weight and he ain't going to be the same kind of person. Let's get him. Let's get this lineal status. And then we'll go see Anthony Joshua and get a bit more money. And it backfired is what happened. So Wilder is always going to look back and go, man, I could have had whatever money I've got in my bank account right now, plus 100 million. They talked him out of this. Yet they've still got a job. Mark Breland, he doesn't have a job anymore. Now, it is possible that Mark Breland is the one who walked away. Mark Breland, he's not really one for social media or coming out in interviews and chastising and going in and giving his side of the story or anything like that. He'll just go, okay, whatever. I mean, maybe behind closed doors, Mark Breland is going to sue Wilder for this because it could potentially hurt his future earnings, couldn't it? For these accusations. And to say that Mark Breland had something to do with the spiking of the water, but yet somehow he managed to pass VADA testing. And if something has been flagged, and if Wilder can prove that he was spiked or whatever it may be, well, if it didn't show up in VADA, why didn't it show up in VADA? If it did show up in VADA, then why did they give you the green light to pass? Do you have therapeutic use exemption? Have you been juicing for quite some time that you've been getting away with taking certain supplements, shall we say? For me, that's the only thing I can possibly come up with is that if he can prove that he was spiked with some kind of muscle relaxant or something, and it did pop up in VADA, yet they passed him, then I have to ask, why did they pass him? For what reason? So there's so many different things, but either way, I totally agree with the poll results. As much as all of them are bad, accusing Tyson Fury of criminal activity, saying how he's a natural cheat anyway because of his gypsy heritage and all that kind of stuff is a horrible, horrible thing to do. But for me, the fact that he didn't just say things about Mark Breland, he actually made an example of Mark Breland by firing him for those reasons, for throwing in the towel, for having something to do with the water. So yeah, anyway, for me, I agree with the poll result. That's for sure. Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all in the next video.